Hi everyone. Thank you for joining our virtual dental shadower session. We want to remind you that today there won't be any quiz at the end. All right, so let's get started. We are very fortunate to have Joey today, and I'm going to hand you the mic and you can feel free to start whenever you'd like.
Yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Joey Tran. I am currently a dental student at the University of Southern California, Herman Ostrow School of Dentistry. I am in the transition to becoming a D2, and so I'm in my summer um, trimester. Um, yeah, I'm very excited to be here to talk with all of you about what it takes to attending a dental school and what it's like to be a dental school, to be a dental student at a dental school. So yeah. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Joey. Once again, I am DDS class of 2024. And so I will be graduating in 2024. So Herman Ostrow School of Dentistry at USC is a 4-year program. And before that, I graduated from UC Irvine in 2019, majoring in biological science. And yeah, so why I chose dentistry. So before I have a thought about dentistry, I was pretty much pursuing a lot of arts and work at a. Sorry, I forgot that I should have shared this as a presentation, but here we go. Does anybody still see my screen? Yes. All right. So before I start having a thought of becoming pursuing dentistry, I actually worked as a freelance makeup artist, and I also like to do a lot of art when I was in high school and undergrad. Um, but because I was majoring in biological science, and I also have a very dear love for science and biology. And so I found a common ground and to be able to pursue a career that can fulfill the artistry as well as making people becoming confident, beautiful, and helping people for the long run in their over health. And so that's why I chose dentistry. And yeah, these are what it looks like during my undergrad. Luckily for me, this was all pre-COVID, and so I got to do a lot of um, free clinics events and participating in all of those free mobile clinics from USC. And I was also in a pre-dental fraternity and also pre-dental society at UC Irvine, where they also provided a lot of opportunity and events for me to explore dentistry. In addition, I was also part of an organization at UC Irvine called CAMMED at UC Irvine, where essentially I took a leader role during my senior year at UC Irvine to host a spring camp for all of the high school students who have the interest in pursuing healthcare field. And what we do is that we make connections to all of the medical students, to all the health professionals, to bring them into our camp and to host workshops to introduce to our high school students. And also, this really helped me to take a leader role and help me to be a better leaders when I come to my future at dental school. So these are what it looks like to be what it looks like every day for me as a D1. I'm currently in the transition to become a D2, but for D1, what we essentially do is a lot of preclinical courses during in SimLab, and because it is during COVID, so we have very limited time to limited access to our sim lab. But luckily, USC still be able to provide us with all of the resources and the access to practice in sim lab and stuff. And so um, we did a lot of uh, restorative courses. So you do cavities preparations, you do restorations, composites, and you also do a lot of morphology, learning about a tooth morphology and how um, the teeth relationship between different teeth to each other. We also do wax up, so you can see from the picture of the maxillary molars on the right to the interior teeth in the front. So you can see that I did wax up, and it is great because if you have a good skill in art, or you just like to do things with your hands, you will pretty much enjoy the courses that we have at USC, and eventually you can translate your art into, let's say, like a wax up, for example. So that was really neat. Yeah. And yeah, we do a lot of restorative work. We make bleaching trays, take impression, and then we drill cavities, learning about different preps, and do composites. So when it comes to choosing for dental school, what you should look for in a dental school is to consider your location preferences, because essentially all the dental school will give you the good resources and the curriculum to become the great dentist that you will be. It just have to do with other factors such as locations, tuitions, how much you are willing to invest in your educations, and what type of curriculum you are best fit in, learning about the school student life and all the activities that they have in that school. Is the school that you are choosing more clinical or more didactic? And look at the graduate statistic of the school, see how many students are specialized, and um, if they're are known for the clinical work, or they're known for passing board exam and things like that, and see if the school mission aligns with your belief or not, and looking for the alumni networking opportunities, because after you graduating from dental school, you want to have that connections to be able to find a job and looking for place to practice. So for me, in terms of USC, I chose USC because USC is very well known for their clinical work, and they in the middle of LA, and so the the patient pool is always very high, even though during COVID time, there's still patients who make appointments, and the school did a really good job to maintain their guidelines and regulations to allow all the D3 and D4 who are working at the clinics right now to have the resource and the patient pool for them to fulfill their requirements before graduating. In addition, USC, its curriculum is a little bit interesting because they're doing PBL and they're doing PBL for their didactic work instead of a traditional lecture-based science classes. They will assign you into groups of with your classmates, and they will give you case studies. So you learn the science of the systemic scientist, the science about your body and other things that related to dentistry through PBL. But that being said, anything like technical about dentistry, it's gonna be a lecture based, and so you don't have to be worried about learning like dentistry without any guidance. It's just the way that they teach science classes at USC's through PBL. We also have a lot of courses such as anatomy that I will be taking uh, in a few weeks, and a lot of rotations that I will be assigned to rotate every week from now on. So, a quick tips that I learned from taking the DAT is you need to have a really good time management, because I learned from my mistakes because I actually decided to study for my DAT during my third year at Irvine. And so I really have to manage my time to balance how school works and also the material that I have to learn from the DAT. Um, Use the right resources and studying materials. So I would say start to study your DAT about, like, depends on how well you can study. A lot of people can study like 3 months ahead. A lot of people have to do half a year. So you have to like really find the type of study habit that you have and the right resources. So what I use the DAT bootcamp because they have a plan. They have like a very strict schedule for you to follow through, and most of the material is very similar to the actual DAT, and they also have a lot. They have up to like 10 different uh, sample exams that you can do to basically practice um, your DAT taking skill. And also focus on your area of strength and practice on your weaknesses. And so I know that for PAT, which is the perceptual ability test, that was one of my strengths. And so I spent um, a good amount of time trying to practice and pretty much perfecting my test taking skill. And I know that my biology, it's probably one of my weaknesses because it's so much information that you actually don't know what they are going to ask you. And so with that, I still taking my time to learn the information that was presented from the program that I was following through. But I wouldn't stress too much about have to you know, get like a perfect score on the portion of the test that I know that I am not good at, but I'm still trying to aim for a high score. Um, and at the end, if you need to retake the test and you didn't receive the score that you wanted, maybe change your study habits, have more time for yourself to study, and take breaks if you need to. So, any advice on staying motivated in terms of applying and studying for DAT? So, I always have to think about why I chose dentistry at the first place and why do I want to be a dentist. Um, it definitely have the motivation for me to keep going through. And um, if you have you need to have a good established support system behind you. So, like your families, your friends, maybe have a group of friends that study together for the DAT, and then you guys will help each other out, sharing the knowledge and asking questions, testing each other out. That will be a really helpful thing to stay motivated together. And also know that people take different paths to get to pretty much the same finish line. And so I know a lot of people in my class who reapply up to 3 to 4 times and they ended up at the same place as I was. And so know that no matter where you are, you will still um, end up at where you want it to be. And don't compare yourself to others. That is something that I'm still like working on while in dental school because you try to be perfect and you're trying to achieve the best of the class, you know, the best of yourself. But don't take what the experience that you're learning and compare it to others because once again, people have different ways of going around things, and you might be good at something else. So just take time and learn about your ability and um, um, being able to open your mind when it comes to other when it comes to doing your work and studying and stuff. um, Also create short-term goals and long-term goals is really helpful, and take care of yourself. I know we should have like, we all say that's like self-care, but it's really hard to do so. But trying to have time for yourself, it's really good to rejuvenate your motivation as well. All right, and that was all from me. I think it is time for Q&A.
Thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us about your journey. I know it's truly appreciated, and I know that I learned a lot from your presentation. So yeah,
Thank you.
we will get started with the Q&A. I have the questions loaded here. So the first question is, what do you think are some pros and cons of PBL? I've seen some
Yes.
pushback with PBL, but it seems like a very hands-on way of learning, which seems to help in the long run, right?
I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions about PBL. I mean, at school, we still have like a non-stop debating about PBL. But to put it out bluntly, I'm just going to be honest. It's like if you like PBL, you're going to like PBL. If you're not going to like PBL, you're not going to like it. One pushback about PBL is it can be a way that distinguish a student that is have a very good knowledge in science versus those that maybe have a little bit more struggle. That's definitely me because there's certain part of science that I do not have a full knowledge about, and but that's a good thing about PPL is that you can learn from other people. And is that we sharing our knowledge, and at the end we assign a learning needs at that certain topic, so everybody can have a chance to learn about that topics if we are still unsure about that. Um, PBL is also a way for you to have a good interpersonal interaction with other people, and so it's a great way to um, understand and that people have their own opinions, and maybe you um, may agree with it or you may not agree with it, and it is a way for you to learn how to be respect to other people, because in reality when you go out and work, it is what you will be facing every day. um, yeah, it's not something for you to be worrying about too much because I've seen a lot of my friends who are history major and they are in dental school right now, and they still doing well in PPL.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is, when is the best time to take the DAT? Is it better to take it in third or fourth year?
Yeah, so you can take, I would say you can start taking the DAT, but in your third year, just because it's kind of close to when you can apply to dental school. You can basically apply to dental school in your third year, and that will give you like no gap year, and you just go straight to dental school. So if you wanted to go through that route, then you can study for the DAT at the end of your second year, and then take your DAT during your third year. If you think that you want to have a gap year after undergraduate, then you can study for it during your third year, or toward the end of your third year and take your DAT during your fourth year. So yeah, that's just most common way that people take their DAT. But if you need more time to relax yourself after undergraduate, and by all means take more time if you needed to.
Okay. And then the next question is, what is the exam schedule like at your school?
Okay, so for our school, it is by trimester. So it is a year-round program actually. So we don't have summer break, but it is nice because after every trimester we would have breaks. So we would have one week and a half or 2 weeks of breaks, and so on one hand, it's kind of nice to have like breaks after every trimester. But to give you a breakdown of each trimester, so each trimester will last about 10 weeks, and we would have our midterm during like the first 5 to 6 week, and then we would have our finals at the end. So we would have a written exam for all the classes that we take about dentistry. Like this is dentistry courses. So we have an exam. We would have TPX, which is a time practical exam for the preclinical classes that we have lab in sim lab. And for PBL, the way that they're gonna do their exam is it's gonna have three different types of exam. For PBL, it's something called MCQ, which is multiple choice questions, so it's very knowledge based. And there's another exam, it's called Combat, which is pretty much you have to look at the figure, look at like a diagram, and kind of understand the mechanism behind it, understand which part of the pathway is inhibited by this type of drugs. So that's what Combat is. And there's a third type of exam for PBL is a T3, which is pretty much a replicated PBL session. So they will give you a case, you have an hour to look through it, find information from resources, and then you will submit your facts and your ideas, and then you will have 24 hours to conduct your studying and report back what you have found, if you validate your ideas or not, or if you need to change anything. So that's pretty much how the exams are running. And yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, have you ever struggled with imposter syndrome? And if so, how did you deal with it?
I'm not sure what imposter syndrome is. If you can elaborate a little bit on that, please.
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
So
Or I can move
probably
on to
don't
the
have
next
it.
question, and then once I, yeah, I can move on to the next question, and then I'll get
That'd be
back to
great.
that one. Yeah.
That would
So
be
if
great.
I take prerequisite courses during summer, are they still looked at by dental schools and counted towards your GPA?
Depending on the classes that you're taking, and depending if dental school will consider that class or the school that you're taking in as a credited class or credited units or not. So I think if you are graduated and you want to boost up your GPA, I know a lot of people take classes in community college and stuff and taking labs there. So I think it will depending on the school. So I think you should reach out to wherever that you apply for and ask if this class is accepted. Like the credit that you receive will be accepted.
Okay. The next question is for someone who's taking a gap year, to the best of your knowledge, what seems to be a better option, dental assisting or taking additional courses?
For me, sorry, did you say dental assistants?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Dental assisting, yeah.
For me, taking a gap year, well, I personally took a gap year, but it is very up to you, to be honest, because for me, the way that I think is that eventually when I get to dental school, I will learn about all of those things that I will have to learn as a dental assistant. So I chose not to do that route, but I instead do other things that I wanted to do. So I took a job for the first time, and then I start working, and then the amount of money that I save up really helped me to pay off for all my applications and the traveling for interview and stuff. So that's just one way of me to perceive to do gap year. But a lot of people in my pre-dental fraternity, they took X-ray courses during the gap year. They took a lot of things that is dental related during the gap year. So I would say, yes, you can do dental assistant if you wanted to, but if you feel like you need to work on certain things such as your GPA or work on your applications or your personal statements, then those should be your priority. But by all means, do whatever you want. Gap year is just a way for you to relax, do whatever you wanted to do. But if you want to stay active with dentistry, that's always a great option as well.
Okay, thank you. What is your take on taking the DAT in the summer that you are applying? How safe is it to submit the application in August?
I would say application submission in August, it's on the verge of almost being late. Not like late that they don't take your applications, but it's because a lot of people will be submitting their application around July and August. So you still want to be early in terms of having your application being reviewed before a certain day that they will make their decisions. So I submitted my application around mid-July, and I heard back an interview in November. So that would just give you like a quick timeline on how long it would take for you to hear back an interview. But the time can change. People will might submit it one day, and then the next day they will get an interview. So it's always better to do it early, as soon as possible with your ability. So yeah. And then about taking the DAT during the summer, I know that I don't remember, but I think that they still allow you to submit your application and then resubmit your DAT score after you have already submitted your applications. So yeah.
Okay. The next question is, what is something you didn't know about your school that you wish you knew going in?
One thing I wish I didn't know about USC is before I go in is that I don't know actually. I think because I live in California for pretty much like all my life, not all my life, yeah, pretty much all my life, and so I kind of know a lot about USC and what their culture is all about. But in terms of just like the dental school and like dentistry in general, it's that I didn't know that their populations, their patient pool and their patient population is really diverse, and they always have great patient pools every day.
Okay, that's cool. What is the hardest thing to get used to in your first year?
Oh yes, the one thing that I feel like a lot of people are struggling with is time management. Because we have so limited time, especially now during COVID, to have access to SimLab, and so we still have like work to get done, and so it's always a hard thing for people to adjust their learning, and as well as fulfilling all of the requirements that they need to get done for each class, and also just like dentistry in general, it's something different that none of us have experienced before. A lot of people have to like adjust their they never have to like hold a handpiece before, have to look through things through like loops and stuff, and so it always takes time, but eventually everybody's like have like being familiar with everything now, so it's good.
Okay. And then going back to that previous question, have you ever struggled with imposter syndrome? So imposter syndrome refers to the idea that you've only succeeded due to luck and not because of like your own talent. Have you ever, if you have,
Yeah.
how do you deal with it?
I honestly think that I never have that thought in my mind. It do kind of like take into account that if you have like a little bit of luck, but it's always come down to your skill. how much you can like practice and how much you can improve yourself every day. And so I have never been struggle with that, but um, it do take a little bit of luck to get through dental school too. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. Okay, so the next question is, so are dental school applications done during the summer after undergrad is finished? Because I won't finish my prerequisite courses until fourth year. Essentially, what is the process like?
So when I was at Irvine, all of my I finished all my prerequisite after during my fourth year. So usually, essentially, depends on what your major is. Um, I feel like I feel like biological science major in at Irvine did a really good job for me to prepare all of the prerequisite class um, for me to have everything done before my applications. But if you can, but if you feel that you can be able to finish all your prerequisite by the end of your fourth year before graduating, then you still can apply within the normal timeline. But if you feel like, oh, there's like one or two classes that I can take during summer and that I have confirmed with the school that it is acceptable for me to do so, then and still apply and make sure that you got all those classes um, fulfilled. And but if you feel like, oh, I need to have another quarter that I will have to, take all of these classes, then you might want to reconsider your applications process.
Okay. So, is it safe to apply in mid-September for the next year cycle, which is in 2022, without the DAT, since I'm taking my DAT in August?
Um, I without the DAT. So if you're taking your DAT in August and you send in your application by September, there's still chances that that you can do that. I know most of the school deadline for um, dental school application is by February. So don't quote me on that, but do a little bit of research to see like when is the deadline for applications. Um, my guess is that the chances that your application might takes a little bit longer to be reviewed and to receive an invitation for interviews. But anything can happen. If you feel that by August you're gonna have this score on your DAT and then you can get everything done by September, then you can do that. Yeah.
Okay. And this is the last question for today. What is your favorite class that you are currently taking or that you have taken?
Yes. So um, last few trimester, my favorite class has to be morphology because I like to do wax up, and it's always really cool to manipulate wax and carve things. So if you guys have ever done soap carving before, it's pretty much the same concept. Right now we are learning about crown prep and onlays inlays prep. So that's pretty like interesting too, and so far, I pretty enjoy it. We'll see how it goes, but yeah.
Okay, great. So I just want to thank you again for taking the time to talk to us today. And to everyone else, I just want to remind you that we won't be having a quiz today. And have a great day.
Thank you very much for having me here. It was my pleasure to talk with every one of you, and hope you guys learn a little bit about um, another dental student's journey to dentistry and learn a little bit about USC Dental School. If you guys have any questions or would like to ask for advice or anything, feel free to reach out to me at my Instagram page. It's Joey Dentistry. So feel free to ask me any question if you have any.